All right, hey guys. So this is first screencastify from me in world history here. So you should have, if you're being responsible, already watched the short video about the causes of the French Revolution, right? Like economic problems, taxing the poor, getting involved in a bunch of wars and stuff, right? Poor harvests, things like that, right? So you should have already watched that video. And now I want to just talk to you through, okay, what happens during the revolution? Because it's a big term, but like what are we actually doing during this period? So there are four stages of the revolution. All right, first stage is when the French people, through some very strong actions, demand a limited monarchy. Remember, last week we studied that France is an absolute monarchy. Okay, they have all the power. Well, now all of a sudden there's a mob, right? That comes and actually storms the Bastille. This is a huge prison that the king and queen used to put opponents and people they didn't like in. So a mob storms that, sets all the prisoners free. Okay. Second, the king and queen are then placed under house arrest. Like literally, a mob goes to the Palace of Versailles, grabs them, and puts them into house arrest. All right. And then third, there's a constitution written. And this constitution places limits on the king and queen, just like in England. Okay. And there were some people that didn't like this part of the revolution, but for the most part, it was going okay. And then the king and queen try to escape. Yeah. They sneak out of house arrest and they try to flee the country. Well, that ticks everybody off. And so the reaction then is something called the Reign of Terror. And this is when the French people decide, all right, off with their heads, right? They execute the king and queen using the guillotine. And there are upwards of, we believe, 40,000 people that are rounded up, oftentimes just dragged out of their beds at night and executed using the guillotine. Here's the key, guys. Here's why it's the Reign of Terror. Many of those people were only suspected of supporting the king or queen. And there wasn't any proof of it. They were just accused of it, and that was enough, right? And so they're executed. Now, clearly, this is pretty terrifying, and eventually, there's some backlash, and that backlash is then called the Directory. After about a year and a half of the Reign of Terror, people freak out and they pump the brakes and they say, we want a different type of government. And so this new government that's formed is then all about peace, stability, right? Keeping things different than just grabbing suspected traitors and executing them. But this new government was weak. It wasn't able to solve a lot of the problems that existed in France. And so as a result, there were some uprisings. And when there were some uprisings, there was a guy named Napoleon. And he was asked to come in and put down a few of these uprisings with his troops. Well, he just uses his troops to take over and install himself as a military dictator. Okay? So that's the revolution. Now notice it's taking place. We won't include the age of Napoleon here really because he's going to be a dictator for a long time. But this is about an 11-year period roughly that is all included in the French Revolution. So, all right, what does it do in France? What does it change in France? All right, well, first thing is that it clearly changes the government, right? I mean, we just walk through all that. So I won't do it again, but clearly drastic change to go from an absolute monarchy to a form of a democracy in a way, okay? That's the first big change. Second change, constant warfare. I mean, constant. And here's why, right? Like if you're a king in England or Prussia or Austria, those countries that we learned about, last week, you are terrified that the ideas of the revolution will spread to your country. And then off with your head. So all these other countries of Europe attack France, right? Constantly trying to get rid of the revolution and stamp out these dangerous ideas. Third change is something called nationalism. So, this had been brewing in Europe for a while. Okay, it kind of been around, but this is the idea now that people are unique or different from each other, maybe because of their language, religion, maybe because they're embracing the revolution. And so France thinks that, hey, right? We're different than everybody else. And they're very proud of that fact. Okay. And the revolution launches that idea. Fourth, conscription. So we technically call it the draft oftentimes, or you could call it conscription. But in order to fight all these countries that are coming after France left and right to get rid of the revolution, France has to draft all the healthy young men into the army. And this is a new idea. Most of the time, up to this point, armies were either professional, right? I mean, men joined the army for their whole lives, or sometimes it was volunteer based. But now France is going to require a period of military service from every young man. So I'm going to just play just like 30 seconds of the French national anthem that was written during this time. And I want you to notice how there's constant warfare that's mentioned in the anthem. There's nationalism, the idea that French people are unique, that they're different from others. And it's definitely going to talk about conscription and how every citizen of France should be fighting to protect it. Okay. So here we go. Again, I'm going to skip forward a little bit because we're not going to listen to the whole thing. But this is the French national anthem with English subtitles at the bottom. Here you go. Okay, so hopefully you got the idea there, right? Every citizen is supposed to be under arms, protecting France. Okay, it's called conscription. Holy cow. They say that the enemies of France, right? Because remember, France is unique and different, nationalism. The enemies of France are coming to slit the throats of their wives and sons. Okay. And so the response then should be that we're going to kill them all and let their blood water our fields. Super gory. But this is really showing that France is a different type of country at this point, right? Okay. At this point now, there's an assignment that you're going to have to finish about the French Revolution. You could refer back to my video if you need to. Yeah, hopefully it's been a little bit enjoyable, right? And we'll see you in the next one.